Good morning and happy Friday, everyone. It's Adam Ratliff with Adam's the Fun, and welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited for the project I have today. We'll get right into it. But first, it really is me. I know something's different, something's weird. What's going on? I got new glasses. I love getting new glasses. It's one of my favorite things. So I picked them up yesterday, and I'm loving them. I think we'll find out. I'll let you know next week. But today we are thinking outside the box, another outside the box project, and we're gonna make this pillow all on the long arm. So I'm gonna piece the strips, and really the only thing I'm gonna have to do back that's not on the long arm, I'm gonna fill mine with fiberfill. So we have to leave an opening in the backing. We'll put the backing and everything on the long arm, but then I'll have to hand stitch it or take it to my machine and just stitch it there. But that's the only thing that's not going to be done on the long arm, so I'm super excited to show you how to do this. Now, this was the first one I made, and you can see some threads and stuff up here. I didn't think about how to finish it. So I've learned a few things. I learned the tricks on how to do the top and the bottom to make sure everything looks nice. So I will share those with you. I should be putting a blog post out with directions on how to do this and everything there too. That'll have fabric requirements and everything. I'll kind of shoot through them as we go and tell you what I did. But it's nothing too hard. I mean, really, it's a lot easier than you would think. So it's a faux pleated pillow. You're gonna love it. What I did, well, first off, Roseanne at Anna Sewing Center in North Olmsted, thank you for the fabulous fabric. I'm so excited to use this. It's either going to look fabulous or it's going to crash and burn. One or the other. I don't care. I just want to make something, so I'm excited for that. We'll be using the square feet today. I know you've seen them a little bit in a previous video whenever I put the binding on, but I'm going to use the small, the 1/4 square foot to do all my piecing, because I'm actually just going to strip piece this right on the long arm. I'll also be using the glide foot, because when we go back and stitch the outside and the backing on, I'm going to use the glide foot just to make sure it stitches over everything and nothing gets caught up. It shouldn't anyway, but we're going to throw this on just to be safe. Some other things. I'm using Pro Stitcher today. You can definitely do this without Pro Stitcher. What I did is I went into Pro Stitcher Designer and I made an outline. And I'll talk about this when we actually go to the machine. But I had it stitch like my base outline. So I have lines that I can line things up with. If you don't have Pro Stitcher, you would just draw those lines before you actually put it onto the machine. And then you have your lines that you're going to be lining the strips up with. I find this super easy. It took me 5 minutes at the most to do this design. I'm really good at doing straight line designs on Pro Stitcher Designer. But for this one, I'm making an 18 by 18 pillow. So I'm going to need 23 of these strips. And this is a jelly roll friendly project. So if you have a jelly roll and you're like, oh, let's use some of these strips, that would be perfect. And this is just a width of fabric, 2.5 by width of fabric that I folded, or that I cut in half and then folded in half. Like if we were making binding, double fold binding. So here's my 2.5 inch strip. Voila, I cut it in two, and then I took it to the pressing board and pressed it, and then movie magic, here's my strips. So I have all my strips already pressed. I've already loaded the long arm. So what I did is I loaded up a piece of muslin, and it was just some random, I don't even know why I have it, but I had found some in a box in the storage room. So I loaded up maybe a 25 inch by width of fabric strip of that. That will be inside the pillow, so it doesn't matter. And then just some batting, and I found a scrap batting piece that was big enough. I think this one happened to be a poly. And then I cut a 20-inch piece of white, and I went to Ben the other day and I said, hey Ben, what color do you think the back of the pillow should be? And he said white. I said, how about gray? Or like a dark green or a light green. And he's like, so you don't really want my opinion? I said, well, I do, unless it's white. I don't use a lot of white fabric. I know it makes quilting look fabulous. I just would rather have a little bit of color somewhere, so I usually use a light blue or I do a lot of dark backgrounds actually, but beside the point. I cut a 20-inch strip, cut that in two, so I made like a larger fat quarter. Part of it is on, so that part of it, I actually made a quilt sandwich, and then these are going to be stitched on top. I've done it both ways. The pillow I showed you previously didn't have a quilt sandwich. It was just stitched right on the batting. I like to add batting for a little bit of puff. And if I was thinking, I should have probably used like a green that matched this in case they flip up. But whatever, you know what? We're having fun, and that's all that matters. I mean, you know me. It's all about quilting, and it's all about having a good time and having a laugh. So, yeah, let me move the camera around, get you over to the Pro Stitcher. I was going to film last night, and I just wasn't into it. So I had stitched some stuff out. So this actually works a little bit better because I'm going to bring in the design that I made and then have to realign it and stuff. So even if you don't want to make this pillow, if you are a Pro Stitcher user, you'll get some Pro Stitcher tips because I'm going to go through and show you a few other things, maybe how to realign certain things. Like I have to realign this design, how to stitch certain parts. I don't know. Stick around. We'll see you in a second. All right. So we are here at the Pro Stitcher. And first thing first, I need to open my design. So I'm going to go up to my file tabs. Remember, it's always file, ribbon, sidebar. And in this case, there's not going to be a sidebar because we're going to go file, design, open. And it's going to bring up our files. And usually we're getting something that looks like this. We're in our C file, which is the file that is saved directly onto our Pro Stitcher tablet. And here's all our design files. Well, this file is on a thumb drive. I created it in Designer, put it on a thumb drive, and now that thumb drive or USB drive is in my port. So I'm going to hit this little green arrow. See where it says the C and there's the little caret pointing down? I'm going to tap that. And now this C is anything saved on my tablet. E is going to be my USB drive. If I had two USB drives, there would be two different files there. So I'm going to tap on E, and it's going to show me all of these are different files that have different files that have long arm files in them. And I saved this down here in the videos file. So if I tap on Urban Elements, these are designs that I've purchased from Urban Elements. If I tap on Quiltable, these are all my Quiltable designs. This is only some. This is the whole cloth ones. So I can tap on videos because that's where I put it, because I figured if I'm going to make a video, I'm just going to save them all in the same place. Here's my design. It's called the 18-inch faux pleated pillow. I'm going to select it. It turns black, and I'm going to hit open. I could double tap it too, so that's fine. So if I'm going to hit the bottom house. This is refresh, and that's going to bring it as big as it can go in my screen with my needle. So I'm just going to move that so I can see it big. Because like I have glasses. I want to make things as big as I can so I can see them. Now how this design is set up, we're going to be putting these strips every 3/4 of an inch. So what I did other than the first one. So the first one, so let me zoom into these lines right here. So this is the edge of our pillow, the bottom edge. The first line is going to be 1.25 inches in from that side line. Then every other strip is going to be 3/4 inch away. So what I did is I made a 18-inch square, and I came in and had it stitch 1.25 inch, and then up 3/4, and then I just repeated on my path and got them all. So I think I need 23 strips in this, plus I need a filler under this first strip and an extra strip at the end so I don't have that weird edge that I had in the pillow that I showed you. So that's what I learned. And so we're going to get something that looks like this. Now I'm going to tilt you down. I hope you don't get dizzy. Sorry if you do. I've already stitched this out. So you can see, and I'm using my favorite thread, Omni and Omni Green today. And so this is 1.25 inch, and then these are all 3/4. And if I look up at the top, these are the opposite, same 3/4. So I'm going to end up lining my strips up here and here using my square foot, which we can see on, to stitch down the side of that strip, and this will keep everything going in line. I'm never going to have to pull my needle or my bobbin up. I'm going to start here and stitch down. Get out of the way, put my next strip, and then stitch up, and then stitch down. And I'll be able to zigzag my way up and down, never having to trim my thread, because once I start stitching, I don't want to have to stop unless I have to. So that's why I'm also stitching these vertical instead of horizontal. Because again, machines don't really like to go a straight line from right to left. So I'm going up and down. I'm not going to have any issues, or I shouldn't have any issues with thread breakage and all that. Let's go back up to our screen. So The problem is I just opened this design, so I need to realign this design with what's going on and how my design is already stitched out. So what I'm going to do is, remember our crosshairs are our needle. The needle is the crosshairs. I don't know how that sentence is supposed to be said, but whatever. The needle or the crosshairs represent where your needle is. So I'm going to move my needle. So I'm going back down to my quilt. I'm moving my needle with my laser light, and I'm going to put it right here in this corner. And I can pick any corner that I want. And I'll move the camera so you can see this. So there we are. My needle is right here in the corner of that design. Now I'm coming back up to my screen, and it does that weird thing. And if you look at the screen, a lot of people see this and they're like, oh, everything's in the wrong spot. The design's in the wrong spot because I just opened it. So I'm going to go up to my Modify tab. Remember, we're going to go Tabs, Ribbon, Sidebar. And I know that the needle's in the right place. So I know that those crosshairs are in the right place. So if I want to move something knowing that my needle is in the correct spot, I'm going to use Reposition, because Reposition is going to move that design according to where your needle is. So I'm going to tap on Reposition. And we'll see all our options over here in the sidebar. I could center this design. I could reposition it from the start point. So in this case, I could hit start point because the start and the stop are in that bottom left corner. This works. But maybe the start and the stop were in the center of this side. Start point wouldn't really work for this application. So what I really like to use, and I use a lot, are these top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. My needle is in the bottom left of that design. How do I know that? Because I put it there. This is the bottom left corner of that square. So I'll come back up here and I'm going to hit, I hit bottom right on accident. I'm going to tap bottom left. And you'll see that the bottom left corner of that design is now where my needle was. So it's that easy to move a design if you know where your needle is. Super easy. So now that is all lined up. And I don't actually have to stitch this again because I already stitched it. But in case I had to, this is how I would line that up. So now we're going to get to stitching. So let me see. I'm going to reset up the camera. I'll see you back here in a second. All right. So now you're down and you're in the thick of it. So, all right. So I have my lines lined up and I need to put my first one on. But if I were just to put my first strip on here, so let's say I have my strip here, under that is all white. And this is at the bottom. So instead of laying just this strip, I have just another strip. I did not fold this one. This is still open. I'm going to line this one right side up on my lines. So this is that first line. This is 1 1/4 inch away from the edge of our pillow. You'll notice that the strips are much longer. I could trim these down if I wanted to. I'm not really going to worry about it. It's not going to affect much. I do have my ruler base on because I'm going to be holding things down and stuff, so it gives me a little bit more of a base to hold. So what I'm going to do is, because these are longer, I'm going to offset every other one. So this one's offset, so I'm going to stitch, come down here, and remember, I don't want to have to pick up my thread. So I will stitch over to the right, lay my next piece, come back onto that piece and stitch up. You'll see that in a second. So there's my first piece. And this is, remember, this is just a regular piece with the right side up. I will put my folded piece on top of that. And this is only for that first piece. The white under the rest of them, I don't really mind. You probably won't see them anyway because of the overhang. So here's my first strip. I have my 1/4 inch square foot on. I'm going to come here, pull up my bobbin. Depending on the machine you have, you can take a few stitches to tie off, or you can hit your tie off button. And I'm going to stitch 10 stitches of an inch. I'm turning my cruise speed down to 25, and I'm going to stop needle down. I just like to stop needle down. So there's a few things I could do. Let me go in and change my star button to be a start and stop so I can use my left hand. So if I do something wrong, it's because I'm not using my regular hands. So I have the edge of my foot here, and I know my needle is 1/4 inch away from that. And I'm just going to stitch down this side. Get to where I can readjust, maybe move some things, because fabric shifts. Now this is a great time if you are someone who has channel locks or you like things to be perfectly straight. Use those channel locks. Me, I am more of a go with the flow type. So the edge of my square is here. You can see that line. I'm going to keep stitching. I'm going to stitch down like a good ½ inch, if not all the way to the edge of my fabric, maybe an extra inch or so. And then when I get here, I'm just going to stitch to the right. This is all not going to be part of the pillow anyway. I'm going to cut it off whenever I put my backing on. But now I have my first strip on. Oh my gosh, it's already looking great. So now I'm going to add my next strip. Same thing. Except now I'm going to, remember how I said I was going to offset them? I will offset it so the overhang's the other side. And that's why I did these lines instead of drawing lines myself. I just had Pro Stitcher make these lines. They're probably about an inch. And I can just line them up on this side, line them up on that side, and use that foot to do the rest. So now I'm going to stitch back over to my piece. I have the edge of my foot here, and I'm just going to stitch backwards. So you have to stitch the right after each one because you have to give yourself a place to line that next piece up. But look, so even if this flipped back, it'd have to flip back pretty far to be able to see that white. So because you get a nice overhang. So now I'm going to do the next one, and I would just continue this all the way until the end. So I'm going to do this, and we'll see you back here in a second when they are all done. But it's just, I'm offsetting every other one, so I don't have that huge overhang over here. They're on every other one. But again, we're going to trim that off, so it doesn't really matter. So we'll see you back here in a second. All right, so we're on that last strip, and we have this little piece, this like 1/4 inch on the outside, because when you add 3/4 and it's 18 inches, it doesn't come up. You have an extra 1/4 inch. So I'm going to take another another piece that is just flat, and I'm going to tuck it under this seam allowance of that last strip that I just made. So I'm tucking it into there because then it's not going to go anywhere. And I might have to pull a few stitches out, which is fine because this is on the outside of the pillow. There we are. And I'll do the same thing down here. Just so that seam allowance folds back. So this is going to be the only place that if that fabric flips over, it's going to be, here we go. Or if that strip flips over, there's still plaid under it. So what's the problem? The problem is now we don't have our lines to line this strip up. Well, I can just fold this over and kind of eyeball it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let me see, eyeball it here. And so there's my last strip. And I tucked this other one under just to make sure it's not going to really shift anywhere. So let me line this strip up one more time. You do want to make sure that things are kind of staying in line. This is such a busy fabric that it got off in a few places, but you can't tell because there's a lot going on here. And most of the time, I'm not a stickler about those things. All right, so there's our 1/4 inch. I'm going to, let's stitch this down. I want to, can you see? Let me move you really quick. All right, so here's that last strip we stitched on. The edge of the piece is basically right here. It's basically on the edge of this fabric. There's a few things we can do. What I really should do is just make this, shrink it a little bit, and I think that's what I'm gonna do. Because if I shrink it down this way 1/4 inch, it'll stitch right here, and then we'll just get this this first flap, and then we'll get all 23. And I think that is probably the better way to go in this situation. The other thing I could do is add one more strip. And then we're going to pick up just that 1/4 inch of this strip. My worry is that if we get just this much, this flap is going to come up and we'll be able to see that stitching. So either way, I think I'm actually going to bring that in. So it won't be 18 by 18. It's going to be about 18 by 17.75, 17 3/4. So yeah, let's do it the 17 3/4 way. I like that way a little bit better. So so here are my strips. These are all done. It looks really good. I'm excited to see it when it actually has some fiber fill in it. But let's go back up to Pro Stitcher. All right, so we're back up in Pro Stitcher, and I have to do the final step, which is going to be stitching out the square on the back of the quilt. I'm going to use the function in our area tab. So I tapped on the area tab, and in the ribbon, we have this button that says RB area, and that stands for rubber band area. And that is basically if you were to open a big rubber band and snap it around something, rubber band is going to give you that same look. So right here we have a square. So we're going to get a nice square area when I tap it. You can see that now we have the pink box around the design. One thing to notice, I'll zoom in on this, and you're not going to be able to see it on the screen, but if you ever do this, it's not a solid line, it's a dotted line. That's just how rubber band area works. And the dotted line usually represents if you've edited your area in any way. In this case, when you use rubber band, that's what it does. Remember, our design is 18 by 18. So I'm going to go up to my modify tab and resize, because I want to resize this. Remember, we want to bring it into about 17.75. So I'm going to leave my lock off because I only want to change the width. The height to 18 is okay. And I'm going to tap down on my box, and I want to do 17.75 and hit enter. And we'll notice that it just shrinked in the sides a little bit. Everything else looks good. So I never trimmed my bobbin thread, so let me do that really quick. I have to remember my buttons are different to not hit that tie off. So now I'm going to zoom into my design. And this is where I made that last line, that last stitch line. So I'm going to come in. I was looking and I stitched farther because I stitched farther than the line. I forgot. So I'm going to come on it, but I'm going to come in just a little bit more. So maybe we're taking about 3/8 off instead of 1/4. And I'm going to go my reposition. I want to select my area. So to select my area and know I have it, I'm going to tap workspace over in our sidebar. And I can see that I have one design, the 18-inch faux pleated pillow, and I have an area design, or an area. So I'm going to tap area. You'll see my area turned green. And now I'm just going to use that same thing. Reposition, bottom right. And now that area is shifted over just a little bit. And there we have it. It does go a little farther on the left. I think we should be fine because we had the bigger green piece on the left side. If you didn't have room over here, you could always shrink and shrink it in a little bit more. You'd be fine. We're going to fiber fill it anyway, so it's not like it has to fit a pillow form. So now I'm going to select and tap somewhere on my screen because I want to make sure my area goes pink. And I will put my backing piece on here. So I'm just moving everything out of the way. And I just want to make sure everything is covered with my backing piece. Here we are. Come back over. And I'm going to change my foot. So in case you don't know how to change your feet, there's a screw on your foot. I'm going to loosen that up. I'm not taking it all the way out. I'm just loosening it up. And you want to lift up your hopping foot. And the hopping foot, the bar, mine is in back. If you have any of the other machines other than the Moxie, they're going to be on the left. But you can lift this up. It takes a little bit of strength, but just grab it and pull. And now I can put my glide foot on. Tighten that thing up. And I always try to hold that foot up as taut into that shaft that I can. Tighten, tighten, tighten. These are plastic, so you don't want to over tighten them because you will snap them. And now I'm ready to stitch. I always just needle down, needle up so I can get my thread under that foot. So here's the kicker, because you've probably never done this either. We want to stitch that area out. So I'm going to come up to my Pro Stitcher, just like I would run a regular design. And you see down here on the bottom right, it says Trace Area. If I select that, it turns green. And what I'm telling the Pro Stitcher to do is only stitch my area. So it's only going to stitch the area. I'm not really sure where it starts. So, some say it starts at your first point. I did rubber band, so I'm not sure. I'm thinking it might start down here because that was a start point. But I'm just going to put my machine in the middle of my my design, and I'm going to hit run. Usually, I would leave an opening, but because I'm just tracing area, I'm not going to worry about it. And then I'll just seam rip some stitches out and then use that to stuff it. But oh, and your backing, I'm just using white, so it doesn't matter. But you do want right sides together when you're doing this. I'm going to hit run. Here's all my things. Is my needle up? Yes. Hit proceed. And it's going to go to where it wants to start. And in this case, it wants to start in the top right. And we'll tilt you down so you can see this. So now the pillow's done. I'm going to take it off, trim it up, and I will see you back here in a second. All right, everyone, we're back. So I took the pillow off of the frame. I trimmed the outside so I could have the square, turned it inside out. I pressed all the sides. And pro tip, if you're going to make a video where you need fiber fill for a pillow, make sure you have the fiber fill. I ended up pulling batting scraps because I swore I had a bag and it's not where I thought it was. So, yeah, I need to finish this video. So, I just used batting scraps. But here's my St. Patrick's Day pillow. I love how it looks. It probably is going to get me dizzy, but at least it only has to be out for a month. But Yeah, if you do the folded back and you use like a pillow form, then I mean you could change this out and make one for every holiday, every one for every month. One thing to keep an eye on. So I did notice this top seam. It didn't get quite the coverage that I wanted. You should have about a 1/4 inch overlap with all of your strips. I must have I got off the line at the top, so I might just go down and top stitch this one, and that'll be fine. I could hand stitch it, just kind of throw in a whip stitch so it stays down, because then you'll still get the look. And actually, I might just do that. Like if I were sewing binding on, just do one of my like silk threads will disappear right into that, because it got really close to that seam. But other than that, I love it. I think it looks really good. Now I just have to go and get some fiber fill. But yeah, thanks for following along and joining me today. I know this is kind of a weird outside the box, and this video is probably long, so sorry for that. But yeah. You have to think of what else can you do on that long arm. We'll do some more pillow stuff because I like to make things for the house. And the long arm will do a lot of that stuff for us and makes it really easy, especially if we just slap a folded back and stitch around and then you put a pillow form in there. Oh my gosh, it's so quick and easy. But here's our faux pleated pillow. I love it. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy February. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up. Make sure you hit that bell icon so you're notified for new videos. Check me out on Instagram and Facebook, Adam So Fun, and that's an S-E-W. I always look... I showed you the opening. I'm always posting other things that don't make it to the videos there. I just finished, I think it got posted yesterday as of this video. I finished a huge panel that is on a bed, or going on a bed. It came out fabulous. So go there, check out some pictures. I'm a big fan of panels. But I hope everyone's doing great. Happy February. Happy March. We're almost to March. Happy birthday, Mom and Dad, this weekend. Love you both. And we'll see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone.